Hello and welcome to the Solari Astrocraft architecture session, where we're going to take a deep dive into the technical details and behind the scenes of this smart companion based on Gen AI and Adobe technology. You should be familiar with the general demo. If not, no worries, just stop here and click through it yourself first, or have a look at the introduction session and come back afterwards. Furthermore, keep in mind that this is just a demo setup and not a real productive one. We designed this to be adaptive to a real productive deployment according to specific requirements and scope for your business. But now, let's start and see how the application works. Let's go. In the first step, we are presented with several options. So how does the offering of these options work? Let's have a look into the dev tools of the browser. We see that we have a JSON request here. It's coming from appdatapurposes.json, and it's giving back these options. For those of you already familiar with AEM Edge Delivery, you will recognize this data schema. If you are looking into the content source of this website, we have an app data folder, and we see these purposes here authored in a sheet. This can be very easily adapted by non-technical authors to change options in the experience. Let's continue. The next step is more or less the same, giving us the opportunity to state our priorities. Then the passengers. And now we are presented with 3 ship models matched according to my preferences. Before we dive into how we've come to these 3 options, let's have a look into the details first. We have this view here with more information about our ship, including descriptive text and stunning AI-generated images, and we even received additional specifications for different parts of the ship. So where is this coming from? Let's inspect this and look at the source code. We see it's an iframe. If we are opening this, we see the URL schema, which reminds us already of Edge Delivery. We can press the Edit button and come to a document, and these are sites and content that are maintained in Edge Delivery Service. Where does this short list of 3 engines come from? Why are we presented exactly these 3? Let's take a look at the Network tab, which gives us a hint already. We have searching for API. So this is an API endpoint, not on Edge Delivery, but hosted on AWS. We are sending some payload to it, which is basically the selection we have done previously. And what comes back are exactly these 3 ships. But how are we getting to these 3 exact ships? Let's have a look at the architecture diagram. There's a lot more on the diagram, and we'll get into the additional details later. Focusing on the middle, here, we see the setup of these API endpoints. We have an API gateway hosted in AWS, and we have a Lambda. This Lambda is important for this request. It's communicating with OpenSearch. And this is not a static OpenSearch query. This is actually a semantic search. So even if you're putting your own options, or if the author is changing the options, we are not only finding one-to-one matches for those words, we are also finding related and similar terms in the data. And that's how our ship models are selected. Let's go back to our demo. We select a spaceship model, and then we are presented with 3 options for engines compatible with the ship. We are selecting one of these. This is, again, a static list. Here we have options for some personal touches to the exterior of the ship. This all comes out of ship data from Edge Delivery. You might have seen those colored images already in the data of the ship. We saw the loading time was a little bit longer than with the other pages. And we see another endpoint popping up here. The API is presenting us with 6 options, and these 6 options, again, are selected in a similar way as before. The only difference is we now have a lot more input that we can provide to OpenSearch to select those. So let's do exactly that. Let's select an interior. And on the last step, 2 things happen. First of all my preferences are stored in the database and in Adobe Experience Platform. We will see later that with this data, we have a personalized email included in this experience. We have some loading time that takes around 30 seconds. What happens during this loading time? Let's zoom in a little on the Lambda. This is a more complex Lambda with several steps. First step is related to generative AI. As input, we select all the data we have received from the users during the experience as user preferences. We also receive all the related content out of Edge Delivery, out of OpenSearch, and we send all of this as context to OpenAI, telling OpenAI what text or what response we expect in a prompt. The output of the first step is the input for the second step. We use what we're getting back from OpenAI and pass it to the next Lambda function to generate the Google documents in Google Drive. The third and last step of the Lambda function will preview the Google document and then publish the documents in AEM Edge Delivery. And there, we see the result. We have our engaging, personalized page with my name and the ship model result page that includes all the information about the modules and features I selected. All this text here is generated by OpenAI and personalized to my choices. Just to prove that it's on Edge Delivery, we can press the Edit button again and see how it is all in the document. I previously said data is going to AEP. Let's open the architecture to explore how that works. So there is a tracking request sent to AEP. For now, what we see is a nice personalized email. Let me quickly open it. We have a personalized page with our selected ship model, name, and another link to the result page. This is the first action we can do out of AEP. Obviously, we can use all the data for later personalization. Regarding the rest of this architecture overview, we already heard documents are hosted in Edge Delivery. There is actually more to Edge Delivery than just the documents, right? There's also the code. So how does that work? The overall application, called the Astrocraft Innovation Lab CX, is a React application which is also hosted in Edge Delivery as static files. If we jump back to the browser and have a look into our repository, this is the Edge Delivery repository. We see we have an app folder here, and the app folder just contains all the static files we have for our React app. Those are available under /app and then the file in CloudFront. We're doing some custom request URL adaptation to point them to the right documents when accessing just the route, and so on. So, typical straightforward React application, but hosted in Edge Delivery. The standalone pages are just very straightforward. CSS, JavaScript coming from Edge Delivery for the result page, but also those ship or engine pages we saw before. And for those, the documents, sheets, and images are hosted in Google. And with that, I'm at the end of my demo. I hope it answered your curiosity about how Solari Astrocraft works behind the scenes. Thank you for watching.